Guys, and welcome to another Red Ravens Productions video. Today we're going to be having a go on a game preview called Astroneer. It's from a studio called System Era. Now I've spent quite a lot of time, really a lot of time playing this game. It's a sandbox based game. It's really simple. The premise is basically to survive. And it's really good. I'm really enjoying it for a simple sandbox game. It's very addictive. So let's jump in, and we're going to start on a game that I've already started, because it can getting set up can be quite long-winded. So I will jump into a game I've already started and talk you through it. I hope you enjoy it. Let's get into it. The music on this is a bit creepy, especially when you're in the caves on some of the planets. It can be a little bit creepy. Okay, just to give you an overview, it's basically you're an astronaut. You're on a planet, and you've got to build yourself a bit of a base, collect data and research it in order to unlock the ability to create new vehicles, new base points, things like that. And you can create a shuttle and travel to different planets, gather data and research things on these other planets to give you a foot up in the rest of the game. Known bugs with this game: the game does crash quite a bit. It is in the preview stages, so it will have a few bugs. You can fall through the floors every now and then, and because you're an astronaut and you have to constantly have a supply of oxygen, you have to put down tethers, which tether you back to your base or tether you back to a vehicle. Now, what I have noticed with this game is if you put down a lot of tethers, the frame rate absolutely drops and makes the game quite unplayable. I know System Era are trying their best to iron out some of these bugs, and like I said, this game is very much in the preview stages. So let's get into it and see what we can do. Now, as you can see, this is a small base that I've already built. This is a second base that I've built on this planet. So the frame rate is starting to suffer a little bit because of the amount of things I've got on here. Well, let me just walk you through the base. This is your main habitat pod. Everything you do attaches to this pod. You can extend your pod by selecting it, and then you need common items, so you have to excavate the local area to get things like resin, coal, compound. Each base section requires a different amount of resources to activate it. Your backpack, which you have here, sorry, there you go. This is your backpack. Your backpack contains all the information you need to survive. It also contains a small 3D printer. Just bear with me a second, guys. I think I'm having a few issues with my camera. Just bear with me one sec. I'll see if I can sort it out. It does this from time to time. Hopefully that will have sorted it. There we go, my camera's back on now. Hopefully you can see me. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, as I was saying, back to the backpack. Your backpack is basically your lifeline in this habitat, in this area. It has everything you need, from your oxygen gauge, which are that blue line across the top, which is your oxygen gauge. It has a small 3D printer on the bottom. Again, you need to gather resources in order to print things. You can print things like a small solar panel, a small wind turbine, a little generator, which the generators that you can get a small generator which runs on local plant life. So again, you excavate local plant life, input it into the small generator, creates power. The medium generators are a bit bigger, they don't fit on your backpack, so you have to have them at your base. They run on coal, again, which you have to mine for. Batteries, power is key. Power and oxygen are your biggest resources in Astroneer. You have to have a constant supply of power, and you have to have a constant supply of oxygen, otherwise you will die. So you can create small batteries. Again, small batteries can be carried around with you. Large batteries have to be at a base. You can create power cells. Power cells are a lot less efficient to a battery. I haven't actually used power cells that often. You do find power cells are dotted around on crashed ships, on other astronauts that didn't make it. They tend to be used up very, very quickly, whereas your batteries, they tend to last a little bit longer, and you can use solar panels and wind energy to recharge your batteries, whereas once your power cells have gone, they're gone. You can create oxygen tanks. As you can see, I already have 2 extra oxygen tanks on my backpack. They, again, for when you are exploring away from your base or away from a vehicle and you haven't got a tether nearby, they will start to deplete as your normal oxygen tank will. It just gives you a bit of extra exploring time before you have to get back to a vehicle or back to a base. You can also print filters. Filters will help because there are some poisonous gases on some of the planets. Some of the local plant life give off poisonous gases. If you've got the filters on, you can survive a little bit longer in these poisonous atmospheres. Also, you can create modifications for your excavation tool. This is your excavation tool, which has just popped out. You can use this to mine and to build. So you have separate modifications on this one. You can have a boost mod, which allows you to dig or build faster. You have a wide mod, which makes the excavation area or the build area of your excavation tool a little bit more bigger. You have inhibitor mod, which actually stops you from digging but allows you to still gather resources. And then you can have an alignment mod for making more square or flat areas, and you can also have a narrow mod, which is that one which makes your excavation area a lot smaller. There's a wide mod, there's an inhibitor mod. You can also have a terrain analyzer. Now what this does is this actually tells you what resources are in the terrain while you're digging, but you don't actually excavate the area while you're using it. So it's a little bit pointless, but I don't use it very often. Dynamite's a good one to create as well. If you want to make a hole in a big area or in a mountain to get through, you can use that. Beacons, very, very handy. I print quite a few of these beacons because when you're exploring, especially in a vehicle away from your base, you to get lost. Now, as you might see at the base of my character, there is actually a compass. Now, this is a rough guide. You can use the compass to navigate around the planets, but however, if you do get lost, it doesn't work as well as it should. Beacons are handy because you can drop them down in a line and they send basically like a big flag up in the air, and you can see them from quite a distance. But you do need to put them down. Obviously, the terrain of the planets are the planets around, so the terrain eventually, once you get too far away from a beacon, you won't see the flag. So I tend to put a lot of these down to help me find my way. Bases have their own beacons built into them, and so do vehicles, so that you can see your vehicles and your base on the map as long as you're not too far away. So they work really, really well too. Work lights are essential for when you are mining in mountains and when you go into caves. They just light up the area, give you a bit more of a heads up. There can be deep caverns that you can fall down, and yeah, if you don't see them coming, especially in some of the darker caves, the work light can really, really help. Canisters are essential to what you do. You can actually build in your base a mineral extractor, which will take soil that you've dug up from the ground. You put them into the canisters, and then you load the canisters into your mineral extractor, and as long as you have a sample of the mineral you want, the mineral extractor will actually remove the minerals from the soils, so you don't have to excavate as often. They are one of my first go-to things when I'm building a base, is to build my mineral extractor and my research centres first. Tethers are fantastic. Again, if you're exploring close to a base or a vehicle, you can drop a tether, which will allow you to move further away from your base or your vehicle without cutting off your oxygen supply. You'll see how that goes more as we walk through the game. And that's basically everything that you can print on your small 3D printer. Again, with your base, you can use one of your base pads to create a medium printer. With the medium printer you can print medium-sized solar panels, medium-sized generators. You can use it to print control seats for vehicles and shuttles and things like that. To create your vehicles and your shuttles you will need a vehicle bay, which I have one over here. This is my vehicle bay. Again, when you're creating vehicles, shuttles, anything you create in this habitat, you will need to mine for resources. So you can create with this vehicle bay a medium rover. You can create a large rover, which I have two of, a small shuttle and a large shuttle. Now, just to go back to the backpack, the backpack is again your essential tool. Now if you press on this little yellow handle here, that will bring up your research pad, and up here you will see you have I have a number of bytes. Now what you have to do in order to create bytes, you have to find in the habitats research blocks. Now these research blocks you have to then bring back to your base, place in a research center, and then research them. They will give you bytes, and then you can spend bytes here in your backpack to unlock certain resources. So you can unlock a smelter, you can unlock your boost mods, your medium printers, your vehicle bays, so on and so forth, which will help you in the game. I'll just give you a bit of a walkthrough on the vehicles, and I have a vehicle over here. You'll see as well, as I haven't got very many tethers down in this area, so as I walk away from the base, the little line, blue line, which is your oxygen supply, will eventually detach as you get further away from your base. That's when you need to put your tethers down. I do have some tethers in my backpack, which you must have in order to place them down, and when you move forward, there you go, it's detached. You just press down on the D-pad, you'll place a tether on the floor. Now this your tethers will automatically connect to your base as long as you're close enough. Now this one isn't close enough, so you can actually move it a little bit closer, and eventually it will automatically connect to your base and then connect to you. So as long as you're within range of a tether and you're in range of your base or a vehicle, you will have a permanent oxygen supply. Now if we move away from the base and let the oxygen supply detach, you will now see slowly the oxygen meter at the very top of my backpack will start to deplete. I've got two oxygen tanks on the back of my backpack, and they'll deplete. They should deplete first, so you can see the one on the right now of my backpack has started to deplete. There we go, you can see it a bit clearer now. That's started to deplete. Now eventually when that one's run out, it'll move on to the next one, and then your main blue oxygen bar at the bottom will start to deplete. You will get little warning signs, like the screen will start to flash. It will tell you how much oxygen you have remaining as your oxygen starts to deplete to lower levels. You need to get back to an area very quickly, like a vehicle or a base to connect to basically restock your oxygen. If your oxygen does run out, obviously you'll die, you'll suffocate. So, also a note as well is, if you see in the distance there, that is a sandstorm. Sandstorms and weather fronts come in quite often on this game. They won't affect you if you're below ground, but if you are above ground, you will be affected by the sandstorms. Now, the sandstorms can whip up rocks and other debris. If you're hit by them, it will actually hurt you. It can cause you quite a lot of damage. It can, in fact, some cases kill you. I'm just going to sit in this cave for a little while the sandstorm passes. While we're in the cave, I'll give you a heads up on some of the local plant life. The plant life is varied from planet to planet. Some of it's hostile, some of it isn't. Now these plants here, the green ones with the pulsating oranges, they're not actually a threat to you until you start to excavate near them. If you start to excavate near these particular plants, they will explode up into a cloud of poisonous gas around you, and if you stay in that area too long, you will actually die. The plants further on in this cave, these ones are very hostile. Now these are white bulbous type plants, and if you get too close they actually shoot out spikes which will damage you, and if you take enough damage off you, it will kill you. So you want to try and avoid these. All plant life can be killed by excavating nearby. So if you excavate at the base of this plant, there we go, this plant will eventually die. Hang on, I think I've still got my inhibitor mod on, which I have, so I'll just have to remove that. There we go, so if I just place that on the floor for now. There we go, I can now excavate. There we go, now that plant has come loose and it will die, but one thing to note, as it died, it dropped 2 seeds. They will eventually grow into smaller plants like this, and then the bigger plants. So even if you think you've killed them, they aren't gone forever, they will grow back, which you need to be wary of. So I'll just kill a few of these while they're sat in this cave, and I will try and get rid of a few of these poison gas ones just to give you an idea of the gas that they release. Once. There you go, there. Now you see the screen around me went red. That was just to tell me that obviously something in the area is hurting me. Get my inhibitor mod back. Now, as you're exploring in caves and places like that, you'll notice these little tags come up where it says unknown research. If you press the right trigger on these things, you'll actually extract the research from the ground, and this can then be carried back to your base for research purposes. Now, as I explained before, the research base, then as each item is researched, it gives you data bytes to then spend on upgrades for your base and whatnot. And we'll just carry this back to my base, wherever my base has gone. There we are. Now, I don't actually have a research base on this base. Like I say, this is like an outpost that I've set up in my game. So what I will do is I will place this research over there for now. I will create a research base. So if I open this up, it's now asking me, in order to extend the base, I need to add some resin to that area. So let's see if I have any resin. I do indeed have some resin, however I only have 2 pieces of resin. So what I want to do is get some more resin. So I have a mineral extractor over here. I will place my full canister of soil into the mineral extractor. In fact, I will take this half canister and place that into the mineral extractor as well. Controls can be a little bit clunky when you first get used to them, but they're quite simple, so it's quite easy to get used to. Now I need to take a sample of resin. I can hear in the background there's a sandstorm on its way, so I might have to take refuge. My backpack is full, so I can just disconnect that camera. Place that onto the mineral extractor. There we go. Now the mineral extractor is activated because there's a sample and there's soil in it. So if I press this green button now, it will extract some resin out of the soil samples I've just given it. Now everything in your base, as I said before, runs on power. The yellow markers at the front of this mineral extractor say how much power it needs per extraction, and this big unit at the side of it is a medium battery which will then recharge it. As long as if it's dark, there's no the solar panels won't actually charge each one of your bases, so I always have a battery on hand to recharge if it's night time and the sun's not out. So I'll go ahead and I'll press the button, and the mineral extractor will now do its magic and get me some resin. Now the more soil, the more resin it is. Yes, this sandstorm is hitting me, so I will just go and take refuge for a moment in my habitat, because otherwise this sandstorm could quite easily kill me. Take the opportunity to have a quick swig of my brew. Every time you enter a habitat and a vehicle in the game as well, the game automatically saves. Just a little bit of information for you, we are actually playing this on the Xbox One, which is kind of obvious because of the control pad, but Astroneer is actually a Play Anywhere title, so it will actually play on your Windows 10 PC as well. sandstorm's passed a little bit. You can see in the background there I've actually got a beacon down in the area, and the small blue beacon in the background over there with the 3 dots on it, that actually represents a vehicle. So you can see that's another one of my vehicles over there, and if I just pan the camera around, I have a shuttle parked up nearby as well, which you should be able to see. Ah, there you go, that's the beacon over there for my other shuttle. Now as you can see, because that is quite far away, the beacon's quite low to the ground. If I move further back away from that beacon, the beacon for that vehicle will actually disappear. This is where I said to you earlier on in the video, if you use other beacons and put them in a line, they will lead you back to where you want to go, because the further from a beacon you get, the less visible it becomes. Okay, that sandstorm has now passed, so we will head back over to our mineral extractor. I may have to just go and take some of my stuff off my backpack. You can use your medium printer once you've printed it to print off a thing called medium storage. These are these things here, and you can use them to store all your minerals and resources that you've mined for. You can also use them to store canisters, which is useful as well when you get further on in the game and you're building shuttles and things, because you have to create fuel for your shuttles, and it's always handy to have a few canisters of fuel spare, because your shuttles use quite a lot of fuel. So I'll place the resin in my backpack now and go back over here to our base extension area. Now this is going to ask me for 1 piece of resin in order to extend the base. Now what you need to be careful of is your main base only has so many extensions on it. There you go. So that is now giving me an extension to create a new base, to build a new area of my base on. Now this extension is asking me, in order to turn it into a vehicle storage or a mineral storage or a research centre, in order to get to that area I need to add 2 new pieces of resin to this extension. However, in this case I'm going to extend again, just so that I've got a bit of extra area to extend in future. So put that back, open this section, and we will extend again. There we go. Now I need to go and get some more resin to enable me to continue expanding my base. So I will go and get my canisters back. There we go. And now because I have a mineral extractor at my base, I can basically fill up all 4 of these canisters on the back of my backpack with soil, and then the mineral extractor will take whatever resources out of that soil that I need. This is why I said having the mineral extractor is kind of handy. You can dig and extract from the ground, soil from the ground, wherever you want. Now this is your extraction tool. Once it's open, this is what it will look like. If the arrow is pointing inwards, you can that's saying you will dig with the terrain tool. If you press the right bumper, that will then change to an outwards facing arrow, which means you are about to build. Now however, you need to have a canister with soil in it in order to build. Now because all my canisters are empty, there's a big red cross in the middle of it saying you can't build. So but once I have a canister with some soil in it, it will allow me to build. Now the square means that you can use that if you want to flatten or smooth off some terrain. Again, in order to smooth off or flatten terrain, you need to have a canister with soil already in it. So I'm just going to start to dig. Just be aware as well, there are some inhabitants of these planets which will actually eat you if you get too close. So if I fall into that, he will eat me, I will die. So we want to keep clear of him. I've been unable to kill any of these little inhabitants. I've tried dynamite, I've tried digging around them. They don't die, they're a permanent part of our landscape, so you just need to be wary where you're digging and where you are, that you don't fall into one of these. So I'm going to go well out of the way. Also, I wouldn't recommend digging too much by your base. It can lead to problems later on, so yeah, I wouldn't dig too close to your base. Once you're away from your base, obviously, if you haven't got tethers down, please be aware that your oxygen will deplete very quickly and you don't want to die. So I'm just going to start digging. Your terrain tool does actually use power as well, so every time you see one of them yellow bars disappear, that does mean I'm using a bar of my power, and I will eventually have to go back to the base to recharge. However, I do have a wind turbine on my backpack, and I do have a small solar panel on my backpack which will help recharge my backpack. Now we've dug this area. Certain items can't be dug into, so the big rocks and things like that, you need a drill into to excavate them. If you look at the outside of the circle of my excavation tool, you'll see that it's gone light blue. That indicates that my canisters are starting to fill up with soil. Now each line, each section of that area is a canister, so once I have one section full, that means a canister is full of soil. So if I now go to the build part of my terrain tool, you'll see that I can now build. There's no red X, it's gone. I can actually use that to put some of the soil back in and build the ground back up. This is useful because you can use it to create bridges or create areas that are normally impassable. So I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. Yeah, as you can see there, my oxygen has depleted quite badly. Both my tanks are empty and my main bar is starting to fall. So I'm just going to walk back over to my base. Actually, I'll wait here, and then there you go. It tells me I've got 25% oxygen left. Now that normally means you've got about 30 seconds to reattach. You'll also hear your astronauts start to struggle to breathe. And once the oxygen gets down to less than 10%, the screen will start to go red and you'll start to suffocate. Which you can see now, I'm suffocating, I've run out of oxygen. So if I just quickly run back over to my base, I should connect my tether to my vehicle and all my oxygen tanks should refill. Which they are doing. They refill quite quickly, so you can get back to exploring quickly, which is good. Them to fill up, and I think for the sake of this video I'm going to put some tethers down as well, just so I'm permanently connected to my oxygen supply. We'll go from here. I'll place one there, place one there, and place one there. Right, I'll get my excavation tool out. We're by a nasty, so we don't want to fall into him, and we're just going to dig. Just going to dig until all my canisters are full of soil. And then we'll take them back to the mineral extractor and we will extract some resin from, and then we can expand our base and use. I will show you how to use research chambers. We'll do a little bit of exploring later on in the video, but right now I just want to give you guys a idea of how the controls work and the basic premise of the game and what you have to do to survive, really. So you'll also hear every now and then as you dig in a little boop boop. That's basically telling you that one of your canisters is full as well, just if you don't want to use the line as an indicator. So, as we continue to dig away the terrain. Now, digging in the terrain, as you travel over the terrain, you will see certain areas will have certain resources in them. Like this area, there's actually a little bit of vegetation. So as I'm digging, I'm also gathering them resources as well. Your backpack will fill up with resources quite quickly if you're digging in a resource heavy area. Any resources that won't fit in your backpack after you've been digging will just fall on the floor behind you, and then you can collect them at a later date. You just need to be aware of where you left them, really. Some resources are more rare than others, and the rarer ones are, I wouldn't say they're difficult to find, but you can use your extractor to reproduce them once you've got them, but certain rarer resources require a lot more soil. So with the resin's quite a common resource that you can find lying around in caves and on the surface of the planets. So 1 or 2 canisters of soil will get you 2, maybe 3 pieces of resin, whereas if you are trying to find like a titanium to create oxygen tanks, or if you're trying to find lithium to create batteries, they're the more rarer resources, so you'll probably only get one piece of that resource out of about 4 canisters of soil. Now, as you can see, the outside of my terrain tools completely turned light blue, which means all the canisters in my backpack are full. This is a nice indication to know they're full without having to get the backpack out. So, and also the little lights on the back of the canisters will go green once they are full. Right, we will head back over to the base. It looks like another sandstorm's coming in. It's definitely close. It's over there, so we might just miss it. So we'll head back over here. This area over here. Sandstorm. I have to take refuge for a minute in my habitat, as I said before. As the sandstorm hits you, your mobility slows down and debris will start to flow and you can get hit by it. So I'll just take refuge in here. While I'm taking refuge, the game will save. It's really on brew. And we'll just wait for this to pass. As you can see in the background over there is another planet. I think there's about 6 planets in total, all of which you can be explored and you can fly to. You can also use your shuttles to get around bigger planets as well. So if you've got a particularly big planet and you've got a base on one side and a base on the other, you can actually use a shuttle to fly between the two. What I've noticed so far is the majority of the planets have designated landing areas. So if the landing area doesn't happen to be near your base, you won't, like, for instance, my shuttle's quite a walk away. You will need to make sure you've got tethers leading to where your shuttle landing area is, or make sure it's within distance so that you don't suffocate once you start walking from your shuttle to your base. You could always build a base right next to your shuttle landing bay. However, I've noticed that this causes quite a few problems later on in the game. When your base starts to expand, you end up with a shuttle landing in the middle of your base, and it sort of lands on top of one of your research centres or one of your mineral extractors. It makes it difficult then to use that particular piece of equipment. Okay, so back to what we were doing. I'm going to place all my soil now into the mineral extractor. There we go. And you will notice, if you can see, it is quite small, but there is a little green line on the fill gauge of the mineral extractor, and that tells me that once the soil reaches or goes beyond that fill line, I've got enough soil in the mineral extractor to produce the maximum amount of whatever my sample is. As I said before, each little line represents a resin sample, so each little line on that meter says that I've got enough soil in there to create 6 pieces of resin, which is more than enough. And once it reaches beyond the little green line, that means it's at maximum capacity for that particular sample. Now, for instance, if we had a piece of lithium in there, that green line would disappear altogether, and there'd probably only be 2 small white lines on there, because we can only extract maybe 1 or 2 pieces of lithium out of a full canister. So we'll press this button and get our resin. While that's doing what it's doing, we'll actually watch it do it so you can see it do it. I know it's done it before, but this is maximum capacity. And there you go, it replicates all that resin. And there you go. You can see now the medium batteries recharging the mineral extractor. And then the little yellow lines coming off here, they will be coming from the solar panels and the wind turbines, which will then recharge the medium battery. Now, the wind does drop every now and then, and the sun does go in every day. There are planets that don't have any solar energy on them at all, so you basically can't use solar panels on them. You do struggle on some planets for wind as well. Even if there's a sandstorm, your wind turbines won't move, and then you can't create power from wind. That's where your coal and your plant generators come into effect. Put these canisters down a second. We want to go and get some of our resin which we've just created. Let's take a piece from here, put that in our backpack, and we'll head over here to our base extension area, and we're going to create here, and we're going to create a research centre. So we need to put one piece of resin in there, one piece of resin in there, and the base will now expand to a utility base. So there we go, research chamber. In order to create a research chamber, this is telling me I need 2 pieces of compound. Now if we flick through, we could create a medium printer. For a printer we'd need aluminium. For a smelter, smelters are fantastic because if you mine iron ore or copper ore or aluminium ore, you can then use the smelter to turn them into solid copper, solid iron, so on and so forth. But to do that we need compound for build a smelter. A vehicle bay we need aluminium. Mineral extractor we need compound. A hydrazine catalyzer, this is basically your fuel. This is a generator for creating fuel for your shuttles. Your vehicles, your rovers run on power. They run on electricity, so you need solar power panels, wind turbines, etc, etc. They will charge off your field generators, so your plant generator and your coal generator, you can put them on your vehicle and they will then power your vehicle. But we want to build, in this instance, we want to build a research chamber, so we need 2 pieces of compound. Luckily, I have a little storage of compound over here, so we'll just add that to the backpack. We'll take that round to the research chamber, and we'll open the backpack, place the compound in the selected area, and now we just hit the green button and it will build a research chamber. Excellent. We now have a function in research chamber. Now obviously the bigger your base gets, the higher demand for power and energy, so the bigger the base gets, the more wind turbines you'll need, the more solar panels you'll need, the more batteries you'll need, etc, etc. Now we're going to take our piece of research which we took out of the ground earlier. We'll place that into the research chamber. Now this is where you get your bytes from. The blue circle is around the research chamber panel, so if we access the research chamber panel, this is telling me that this particular piece of research is going to take 4 minutes to research. It will give me 450 bytes to spend on upgrades, and once I begin to research it, the sample will be destroyed. Now this is quite important. The sample will completely disappear after it's been researched. If you cancel a research before its total time is up, the sample will be destroyed and you won't get any bytes off it. So you need to let the research run its course. Again, with the research centre, it requires a constant flow of power to research. If for any reason the sun goes down and the wind stops and all our batteries are dead, then the research centre will stop. So even though it says in this little corner here, this piece of research is going to take 4 minutes to research, it could take longer depending on how constant your power supply is. So if your power supply stops for 10 minutes, that 4 minutes becomes 14 minutes, if that makes sense. So what we're going to do now is we're going to hit this red button, we're going to open this red button and hit the green button, and that will send the research centre into research mode. That is now going to take 4 minutes to complete that research, unless the power supply is cut off. Now this base is built in quite an elevated area, so it's pretty windy all the time, and I've got a couple of solar panels over here. I have a solar power panel on the back of my habitat. I also have a coal generator and a small resource of coal. So if the power does go out completely, we lose wind power, we lose solar panel power, I can actually just put a piece of coal resource onto this generator and that will generate power to keep it going. The issue with the coal generators is once the coal has run out, the generator will stop, so you have to keep refilling it. With solar power and wind power, whenever the sun's out, power is generated. Whenever the wind's blowing, power is generated. So you can just sort of leave them to it. You don't have to keep on top of it. So that's that. Okay, right. So now we have our researching. We have our mineral extractor running. Our base is up and running pretty well. So what I suggest we doing now is we go and do a little bit of exploring. So we've got a boost mod there, we've got an alignment mod there, so we don't need that boost mod. I don't know why I got to, but I have. So we'll just leave that over there. So, no. Take that off, take that off. We need them 2 canisters. Back over to our that's interesting. My work light seems to be missing. Let's go and have a look down here. Now, I'll just give you a bit of background why I decided to build my base here. I was doing a bit of exploring and I got lost. I got very lost. So I decided to print myself some bits and pieces, some beacons, and place them down in this area because this here is a crashed satellite. Now this particular crashed satellite has a large piece of solar panel on it. So if I can get this connected to my base, I've got a really large solar power source to keep my base running. However, in order to take this to my base, I need a vehicle, I need a winch, and as I said before, I got lost from my original base. So I put a load of beacons down where this area is so that I could find it in the future, and then I came back here and thought, you know what, rather than dragging it to my main base, I'll build a smaller base here with the intention of dragging this up to the smaller base. So a lot of my stuff got left here. So what I'm going to do now is that. Just take that off for a second. Place it on the floor, and we'll put your work light has to sort of be on the top of your backpack to give you a bit of extra light. There we go. Now you can see, there we go, it's lit up the area quite well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to my vehicle. I need to take my vehicle over to the vehicle bay, and I'm hopefully going to print. No, I'm not, sorry. I got that wrong. I need to go back to my main base, and I need to print a winch, and then bring that winch back here with me in order to move that over here. Now your vehicles are really, really clever. You can actually attach 3 or 4 vehicles together to make like a sort of truck. So that's really, really handy. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to jump into this vehicle, and you'll see the game will save. I'm going to drive my vehicle over to my shuttle. Vehicles are a bit difficult to control in this because there's no real front or back of them. So if you push forwards, there's every chance you'll go backwards, and if you push backwards, there's every chance you'll go forwards. You have to let the vehicle stop completely if you want to change the forward and backwards direction of them. It can be quite annoying. You're driving into a sandstorm by the looks of it. Your vehicles can flip over, but don't worry, it's not the end of the world if they do. You can actually just get out of them, press X, and your vehicle will then flip back over and you just go back into it. Good thing about the vehicles as well, you can actually drive over the nasties and you don't die. However, if you do drive into certain plants, you will still get the negative effects of driving into them. Have a drive over here. It's safe from the sandstorm because we are in a vehicle, so we don't have to worry about that. We can actually drive through it. We will lose our bearings though, so visibility does drop to below 0 during the sandstorm, so we are trying to get somewhere. Alright, while we are here, while we're heading back. So you'll see as well that my batteries are depleting because I'm doing driving. I'm just going to, before we get into the shuttle, stop here. Slowly. There we go. And jump out, and I'll just show you this because I've just seen it in the corner of my eye. This here, the little bobbles sticking out of the ground, are actually compound resource. So if I get my excavator out and dig, you'll see the compound disappear, and on the back of the terrain tool you'll see all the little bubbles. Once that becomes a full block of resource, that will then be added to my backpack. My backpack is quite full, so it might just drop it on the floor behind me. Ah, there you go. So we've done quite well with this resource because it looked like just compound on the back. There's actually more resources below the surface. Right, there we go. That's just beeped, and the resource produced was... oh, it was coal. So it's actually coal resource, not copper, not compound, which I thought it was. So all that there is actually coal resource, the bubbles that are sticking out of the ground. Now the spiky plants, it actually says there underneath, it is lacerite, which is aluminium ore. So again, we can collect the aluminium ore, take that back to our base and smelt it into aluminium to use as a resource in producing vehicles, vehicle-based things like that. So there you go. So that just gives you a quick idea of how you gather resources. You literally dig them out of the ground. Back into our vehicle, and we'll head over to the shuttle. Now this is a large shuttle which I've built from my original base. Yeah, for some reason this is the nearest landing area. I don't know why, it just is. And we'll move over to this base, to this shuttle, and it should just be able to press X. We have a nice full, well, 3/4 full fuel tank as well, which is good. Stop, there we go. Right, now you'll see just above my head there is a little red switch. If we press this switch, the shuttle will launch. Now there's 2 stages to any launch. The first stage is you launch into the atmosphere of the planet that you're in, and the shuttle will then circle the planet that you're on, and it'll display all the landing areas on that planet. Now when you get to the orbit of the planet you're on, there will be another switch which will appear in above your shuttle, which will then take you into space. Now this is a bit more tricky because each planet has a cycle. They all have a cycle, and you can only travel a certain distance in your shuttle. So there'll be a ring around the area you're in which will show the distance you can travel. Now if you want to get to a particular planet and that planet is outside of the ring, you will not be able to travel to it. You can, however, jump from planet to planet, but I think it's easier just to wait for the planets to come into alignment with the planet that you're on, and you can then travel once it's within the circled area. So we're going to launch up just into the orbit of this planet because we don't want to leave this planet, we just want to get onto the other base. There you'll see in the distance one of my beacons. And we just want to turn the camera around. There we go. Right, there we have it. You can see all the particular landing areas on this planet. The blue bubbles represent anywhere you can land on this planet. Now as the planet starts to circle around, you'll see a home sign, and this home sign is my original base on this planet, and we're going to land there. You'll see when we land at this planet that the base is actually a substantially larger base on this planet, but this is not the terrain, this is not the planet that you start on. Oh wow. So we will exit our shuttle. Sort of. There we go. We have exited our shuttle. Now my original base has another research centre. We have bigger wind turbines, more batteries. I have a smelter here. I also have a very, very sophisticated caving system with tethers that lead into each cave. every now and then your tethers will become detached for some reason. I don't know why they are detached from my base, but they are. Again, that's another little bug. Yeah, that one's detached. There we go, they're now reattached. Yeah, so in this base we have a smelter which produces aluminium and whatnot. We have another work light just to light up the area, research chamber. We have a mineral extractor with a piece of medium storage here, and on this piece of medium storage I have a load of samples. So basically I can fill up my canisters and use one of these samples to produce more. Simple. It's a nice easy way of doing things. Each one of these has been dug out of the ground or excavated from wherever. We also have over here, we have a medium printer, which the medium printers can be used to create new habitats, which can be taken anywhere to create a new base. You can create a generator, a battery, drill head, wind turbine, medium storage, open seats, and this is what we want to do. We want to build a winch. So in order to build a winch we need 2 pieces of titanium. Now hopefully in this base somewhere I should have a small storage of titanium. And there we go. Here we go. 2 small storages of titanium. Now the problem I have here is I don't have room in my backpack to store them, so way. We should take it over to our printer. Over here. We'll place our titanium there. Now we hit the switch and we should be able to create a winch. Fantastic. There we go, we have a winch. A winch on this base, we need a smaller one, and we can place the winch on the shuttle and that is now ready to go. Now our fuel tank is looking only half full. So this is what I was explaining before about having your landing site at your base. Now I already have a small shuttle in this landing area, and the big shuttle has just landed straight down on top of it. Once it's on stage, you see a lot better condition is. Sandstorm to pass. You see in the air the floating debris. It just gets scattered around the place. It can actually, the sandstorms can actually knock your tethers disconnected from your base from time to time. It's always a good idea to bring your tethers and check them. I think the sandstorm has passed, so we will jump out. Yeah, as you can see there, the smaller feet on the ground are actually a smaller shuttle, and the big shuttle's just landed straight on top of them, which is quite annoying. In fact, it's extremely annoying. Yeah, you can just see the seat of the small shuttle underneath. So there's a problem I said about having your landing areas too close to your bases. It can cause a few little glitches and things like that. While we're at the core of my caving system, now if you just take a quick look around here, you will see that the mountain in the background here has been quite badly chiseled away. That is because I built my base too close to the mountain, and I decided rather than trying to expand too far out and too far away, I decided to create a load of canisters and fill them up using the mountain basically. So I have literally the whole mountain back away from my base. Now, living in this mountain was of course one of the nasties, and as you can see I've dug out all the bottom of him and all this side out as well. I dug it all away and he just floated in midair. Little nasty, there you go, he just floated in midair, so I just rebuilt it slightly just so I know he's there. But it was a bit of a pain. I did try and dig him out and he didn't die. Now again, what I said earlier about digging too close to your base, it can actually cause problems because my caving system is actually directly below my base on this one. So if I dig too much, there will be holes in the base and I could fall through them while I'm trying to create some research or use my mineral extractor. There was actually big holes in the floor here and I just fell down to my death into my own caving system. This is why I don't recommend digging too close to your base. You're going to explore away from your base. So I'll just give you a quick rundown into these caves that I've created. Give you an idea of what goes on. You can actually get right into the centre of some of these planets. They are quite difficult to explore, but again, you can create your own caving systems. They will open out into main caves, into smaller caves, but yeah, it's basically the whole planet. All the planets are pretty hollow, and you can create full caving systems, find resources. Some of the resources are only available in caves, so you do have to go exploring. I've also got a stockpile down here of research, so there's one that I've placed there. You can see over here there is actually a fallen telescope which has fallen through the floor, and we have some compound here which I've excavated. Again, as you excavate resources out of the ground, they do regenerate, but not during your current game session. So if I log out of this game session now and then log back in, the ground will stay excavated, but some of the compound will have regenerated. But if you excavate a whole area, it won't regenerate until you restart the game. It doesn't restart completely either. As you can see as well, some of the plants in this area have started to grow back into the wall, so you need to be careful if you get too close. Let's see. There you go. You see the spikes just got me there. You get too close, especially with the bigger ones, you will die. So go and have a wander down here. Get lower into the cave and we will get a bit closer to our crashed satellite, which is, oh, that's just a hole in the floor. What is that? Oh, we must have some toxic plants nearby because there's a little green smoke that's heading towards us. That's off one of the toxic plants, so just need to have a walk around here. I can't actually see it, so it must be either in the wall or below me. I think he's in the wall. It certainly looks that way, doesn't it? It looks like quite a lot of my ramp here has disappeared. Actually, I think I might fill that back in. There you go, that research has now dropped. Let's dig this wall out, shall we? And just move away from Mr. Angry Plant, and we will put our coal into the big backpack, and I think we'll put our wide mod on and we will dig a big hole in this wall. See if we can destroy said plant. There he is. Look at that. Built into the wall. We'll dig him away. Hopefully he shall know and stop spreading his poison everywhere. Yes. Lovely. Now these little orange things here in the ground, you can excavate them and they are actually power cells which will help you create power. As you can see in the ground as well, my wind turbine is still turning. You do get underground breezes, which is good because they will give you power when you need them the most. Let's head back over here to my excavation area. Back down into the lower area, I think. And we'll head to the left into one of my other tunnels. Now this is a tunnel I've recently started digging, so there's no tethers down it. That just lets me know that there's no point going down there just yet. And we'll head down here. And here we go. We're now into an area of caving system where there's a couple of crashed satellites. Some of them contained resources, some of them didn't. And we have a little stockpile of research here, which we can take back to the base at any time and research them. If you make your caving system big enough, you can actually bring vehicles down here, which will help you return all of your research back to the surface. There you go. You can see all the underside of the cave roof with all the coal that I've excavated, and there's still some more there. Now this is something I haven't quite got my head around. I found this actually buried down here. It's a thruster for a shuttle or for a vehicle. As of yet, I have been unable to find a use for them. So I don't know if this is something that's going to be introduced into the game, because this game is very much still in the preview stages. So I don't know if it's going to be introduced into the full game or not, but there's quite a few little parts to ships and things down here that you can salvage, but as of yet I haven't found a use for them. So this is a little satellite. Some satellites contain dynamite, they can contain research. There's another satellite over here. There we go, this one's got dynamite in it. I haven't actually collected this one yet, but I'm going to leave it there so that I know where it is. And there is, for some reason, some dynamite on the ceiling, which is interesting. Shall we set it off? Let's set it off and see why it's there, shall we? Whoa, that was a big bang. Made me jump landed. And it's, well, nothing. Yeah, so got a big hole in the ceiling now. I didn't excavate all this cave. A lot of this cave was already here. We have an alien in the cave with us now. If you see that little black line, just be careful. They are. It's basically a law. If you get too close to the red line, that will get a hold of you, and it will drag you up into the ceiling, where an alien will be waiting for you. And now he's gone. Yep, he's gone. Lovely. Now we've got some tethers there. Just place on, leave them on the floor. This again, I've been researching and exploring a lot of this cave system. You just got to be really, really careful because it is so easy to get lost. And if you get separated from your tethering, you'll die pretty quickly. Seems to be a lot more coal resource down here than I remember. Every now and then you will as well come across another poor unfortunate, dead end. You'll come across another poor unfortunate explorer like yourself who didn't quite make it. You can actually remove their backpack and take their resources from their backpack in order to help you. Excuse me, got itchy nose. There we go, got quite a lot of coal resource down here. I remember extracting a lot of it, but a lot of it seems to have come back. bit of research on the roof over there. Oh, there we go. There's one of the aliens that hasn't set his lore out yet. There we go, and you can actually kill them quite easily with your excavation tool. You just dig into them. It's quite hard to be killed by them aliens, if I'm honest. I have tried to get killed by them a few times, and I was only successful once, and that was basically just because I stood still by it too long. Now, here we go. We have a few more resources here. Or if we get close enough, it should tell us what it is. I think that is titanium. Could actually be something like titanium. No, what was it? Yes, it was. It's titanium. Fantastic. So there's some titanium. Up in the ceiling here, we have some ammonium. Ammonium's really, really good stuff. You can actually refine ammonium and turn it into fuel for your ship. Here we have some lacerite, which is some aluminium ore. Oh, we've got another crashed satellite there. See if we can dig him out. There might be somewhere. There we go. Yes, there is. There's quite a big piece of research in the back of that one. Ah, right. Now, looking at this, I may actually be able to attach a thruster to one of these. Should we try it? Let's go and have a try, shall we? We do need to get back anyway, so that we are connected to our tethers, because we are running slightly low on oxygen. So I'll head back over here. Just get a refill. And we will take one of our thrusters over here, and we'll see if we can attach it to that satellite. See what happens. Okay, let's take one of these thrusters, and we will. Yeah, bigger items. Obviously, that you can't put them in your backpack. You just have to pick them up and walk with them. It can be tricky to control them as you're walking around, but it is, yeah, it's not impossible, but it is hard. So let's see if we can place this on the bottom of that. No, it doesn't look like we can, which is a shame. Yes, this is. Yeah. What a shame. We should, however, be able to put our research onto the bottom of the thruster. No? No, we can't do that either. Okay then. Some more research up there as well. Shall we bring that down? Yes, we shall. I mustn't have been this far. Whoa. I mustn't have been this far down this cave, because I don't remember any of this. So this is a new bit of exploring that we're doing. Yes, we won't go too far because I don't want to die. I want to stick to what we were planning on doing. Now, this type of research is normally research that is found in shuttles and crashed vehicles they normally take a long time to research, but they give you quite a lot of bytes to use for your upgrades and whatnot. So I'm going to actually take the time while I'm here to take this back to the base and start the research on it, just so we can get a bit more bytes. Back up our little tunnel. Again, this is where it gets tricky when you're moving around. The controls can get a bit sticky and a little bit clunky, but it's not impossible. It's just a bit annoying. For some reason as well, while you're carrying items in this fashion, you can't actually jump, which can be irritating. But you can sort of place your item on the floor and It's getting a little bit tricky now to control. There we go. You can actually place your item on the floor, get a bit of a better sense of direction, then pick it back up and continue your journey. Wow, there's a lot of them plants starting to grow back. I might have to do a bit more excavation there to get rid of them soon. But we won't worry about that for now because they're not close enough to me to do me any damage. So let's carry on up and out of our caving system. Just a little note, you need to make sure when you are creating your caving system that you don't do what I've done here, and that's create a little hill, because you can get stuck quite easily. And we will carry on heading up and out. It looks like it's night time out there, so probably won't be enough power to run my research chambers at this present moment in time, but we'll set the research going anyway, and once there is power it should begin to research this. I think in the early stages of the game you had to the research actually each research block that you researched gave you an upgrade, whereas a lot of the feedback was that it was quite difficult to find things. Like, so you could find a block of research like this and it was for a large rover, but then once you'd already researched the large rover you spent a lot of time carrying a new piece of research back to the base only for it to turn out to be a large rover which you already had. So which is why they came up instead with the idea of just giving bytes, and then you can spend the bytes on whatever you want to research. Now looking at this one is going to give me a whopping 7,400 bytes, and it's going to take 32 minutes and 30 seconds to research. So we'll set that going, and we have our winch, which is what we need back at the other base. So we will take our winch and fly over. Another good thing about the research as well is as long as your research chambers are actually powered by solar or wind, you don't have to watch them. They'll just carry on researching as you play the game. But if your research centres are powered by generators, then you constantly have to feed the generator to keep the power surge going. So on some planets it takes a lot longer to do things than it does on others, especially planets where you haven't got wind or you haven't got sun. So we're now back in orbit. There's one of my beacons. As you can see around the beacons there's quite a lot of damaged or dropped vessels. Is that the one we've just taken off from? No, it's not. That's where we needed to be. So we'll just wait for the planet to turn one more time. Yeah, this is where we've just come from, and we want to be over the other side. So just wait for the planet to turn slightly and we should be able to drop back down on our beacon. And presto, there we go. Oh, excellent. It's let me land at my vehicle base this time, which is good. I can land at my... that's perfect. The only downside with that is that I have unfortunately left my vehicle. No, there's this trailer. But I have left my vehicle all the way over there. Where is it? Over there. Because I thought that's where my shuttle would land. So I will have to go and retrieve my vehicle so I can use the winch. Now this is where it gets tricky because I want to make sure I don't fall down any caves or land in any monsters' mouths. If you do come to an area where the ground is quite slippy and it's quite sharp drop, you will actually slide all the way down. Wary that if there is any of these edible monster things on the floor, they will eat you if you slide into them. And once you start to slide, it is very difficult to stop a slide. And we have a monster over here, so we want to make sure we don't run over his head, because if we drop in there, we're dead. Once you die, you will respawn, but any resources that your astronaut had on him when he died will stay on him, so you'll have to use the new astronaut that you respawn with to go and salvage your resources. However, if you've died quite far away from your base or a vehicle, then you're going to need to create new oxygen tanks so that you can actually get to your astronaut to rescue the resources. Oh, we've gone airborne. Let's see if hopefully we can land on our wheels. Yes, we can. Beautiful. Yeah, again, that's something else I forgot to mention at the beginning of the game. Different planets have different atmospheres and different terrains and different hostile environments. One of the moons, for instance, has virtually no gravity at all. So where you jump on this planet, you come down to the ground and land pretty much straight away. On that particular moon, you just float. So you have to be careful, because it makes manoeuvring around the planets quite difficult. I'm going backwards now, I don't want to go backwards. There we go. Some of these vehicle controls can be quite annoying, and like I say, you can press forward and go backwards and forwards, backwards and go forwards. It'll take a little bit of getting used to. And again, with the gravity on some of the planets, it makes it even harder to control your vehicle. So I'm going to park this vehicle in an area which is easy to get to, so I reckon about there should do it. Should jump out. I should get my and take the winch off the shuttle. Come on. All the way around here. And I think we should place it on the back of the vehicle, because we want to tow our solar panel up to our base. Now this is going to be tricky, because it's hard enough to control these vehicles when you're just driving, but I don't know what it's going to be like towing, because I've never tried this before. So this is all new to me, as well as it is to you guys. So we'll drive over here. And we shall stop here. We need to get to our winch, which is here, on the end of the winch. There we go, and we want to take that over here and connect it to why isn't it connecting? Okay, there we go. We are connected, I hope. No, we're not. Which is really annoying. why isn't my winch connecting to what it's supposed to connect to? Is exceptionally annoying. Let's see if we can get a little bit closer, shall we? We'll stop there. Oh no, I think we've run over ourselves. Let's get back in and get back out again. Right, I think we should be attached now. Let's see, shall we? If we can drag this and back out to our base. No. Why not? Are we still buried slightly? There we go. Now it's loose, we should be able to drag that back to our base. No, I think it was just buried a little bit. We should be able to now drag that back to our base. And I think it is working. Yes, it is. Excellent. Oh, we're airborne. We are airborne. I didn't want to be airborne just yet, but hey ho. It's definitely helped. Wow. And we will drag this over here a little bit more. And we can jump out of here. And now, hopefully, we should be able to connect. Actually, it might still be a little bit too far away. As I say, these things can be a little bit tricky. But what we want to do is connect to that, which doesn't seem to want to work. Interesting. Whoa! Nearly jumped into a nasty then, that would have been a disaster. As I say, manoeuvring things like this is quite difficult. It does tend to start to get really annoying, if I'm honest. Sandstorm's hitting us now. Just going to take refuge in our vehicle for a minute. Because it's way. See if we can... Yeah, as I said before, it can be really frustrating because sometimes the controls don't work the way you want them to, or it's difficult to get something to do what you want it to do. So just bear with me, and I'll. Can get very frustrating, but we're trying. I'm hoping I can get this connected to that. And over here a little more. Let's have a look. We're close enough. Oh wow, where's that going? No, we don't want it to do that. No, it's decided to throw itself around the middle. So essentially I want it to stay on its back and then connect to this part of my base, but it just doesn't seem to want to play ball. Another sandstorm hitting us now, which is annoying. Get back in here and see if I can just shift it over a little bit. Well, stop now. Let's move this vehicle out of the way completely. Okay, I'm getting frustrated with it now. It's not doing what I want it to do. which is irritating. Now essentially what I want that to do is I want that point there to connect to this point here, but it's not playing ball at all. Let's fill our gap in. Flatten it out a little bit. Whoa. Did not want that to happen. Right, okay then guys, well it doesn't seem to be wanting to play ball, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to end this video here. I hope you've enjoyed watching it, and I hope you've enjoyed and you've learnt a bit about Astroneer. I'm going to have a play with this and see if I can get it to work, and then I will do another video explaining how I got it to work once I've done it. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoy playing the game. Goodbye for now. See you on the next.